You're listening to The Wedding Whisperer with Sarah Burton of Simply Love Studio in Lexington, Kentucky. Hello and Happy New Year. I am so excited that you are here on the Wedding Whisperer podcast. My name is Sarah Burton, and I am the owner of Simply Love Studio, and I have given myself the title of Wedding Concierge. I actually started full-service wedding planning in 2008 and changed a lot of things over the years as the world changed, and I am not a planner that shows up on your wedding day. I am a person that helps you navigate the wedding planning world, answer all of those questions that keep you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, help you make decisions. And my goal is to be there for you. There are no catches and no gimmicks. Everything I do for couples is completely free for you. And honestly, a lot of times there's free coffee involved in that too for you. So it's a win-win. Simply Love Studio is funded by wedding vendors, which means that wedding vendors pay a yearly membership fee to support my business. And that is how I am able to help you plan. My goal is to help you find the vendors that fit your style, your budget, your personality, and are going to make your wedding day absolutely fantastic. To be a Simply Love Studio preferred vendor, that typically means that you are a few years into your business, at least usually 2 to 3. I am definitely open to working with newer vendors because they tend to be a little less expensive, but I do typically prefer someone that has started to build a name and a reputation for themselves or considered reliable and team players. I typically know and have somewhat of a relationship with all of the vendors that come on board. If someone reaches out and I don't have a relationship with them yet, we definitely go and meet for coffee and I get to know them. I'll reach out to some other mutual friend vendors and just kind of check in to make sure that who they are as a person and as a business owner jive with what I think is best for our local industry. As a preferred vendor of Simply Love Studio, there are a lot of benefits for the vendor. We do a lot of networking events so that vendors get to know each other and they have great relationships. That way, when they show up on wedding days, they know each other and hopefully they start working a ton of weddings together. We do content day, which is where they get headshots. So there are a lot of things on the vendor side that, in addition to referrals to couples that I work with, they also get. So that is one of the number one questions I get is, how is Simply Love Studio free for couples? It is because vendors pay a yearly membership fee to support the business. Does that mean that I will only refer Simply Love Studio vendors? Absolutely not. I refer who I think is the best fit for your wedding day. When I did full service planning, I had a couple that I'm sure were lovely. However, I was not far enough along in my career that I knew how to work with this couple. I don't want to say I learned the hard way, but I learned a lot of lessons with that wedding. And the number one lesson that I learned is that not every couple and every vendor are a good fit. And that's okay. You can see that, you can learn from that. And when I have conversations with my couples, our first meeting can be 30 minutes longer, it can be 2 hours long. And in that time, even if it's just 30 minutes, I get to know you and I get to see if you're type A or if you're kind of a fly by the seat of your pants kind of couple. I just kind of get to see who you are. And because I know vendors so well that I can kind of match you just based on your personality. Because I don't ever want a vendor or a couple to kind of go through the challenges that I went through with the particular couple that I struggled with. So yeah, that's kind of why I try so hard to match vendors on the style and the personality. And of course, on the budget. Every couple has a different budget. I work with $15,000 budgets and I've worked with $100,000 budgets. We have vendors in every single price range in our area. And I keep a lot of vendor pricing guides saved on my computer. A lot of them I may not know about heart, but I know kind of starting price or general price. And I can kind of match you up based on, what style you're looking for. If it's photography, are you looking for a light and airy photographer? Are you looking for a dark and moody photographer? Are you looking for a classic timeless photographer? Are you looking for an artsy creative type photographer? All of those different things. When you give me just a little bit of guidance about what you're looking for, I'm able to take hundreds of people in our area and narrow them down for you based on what you're looking for and what your budget will allow for that particular area. On the website, you will also see a link to the Wedding Whisperer podcast. There you will see show notes for the majority of season 2 podcasts. And I'm trying really hard to keep those updated for you. That way, if there are certain topics or certain parts of an episode you want to see or listen to, you can go there and kind of get a timestamp to go look at that, because I do that for podcasts. If there's a specific guest or a specific topic that I want to hear, and then also on the website, there is a frequently asked questions section. You are welcome to go and browse that as well. Hopefully, I have covered most of those questions in this podcast. And then also on the website, there is a contact us. You will click on that and it will bring up my calendar. Through the calendar, you are able to pick a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting. Either one of those is completely fine for me. If you pick in person, I typically do a Starbucks. I think I have 5 or 6 different Starbucks on there. That does not mean that I don't love local coffee shops. Starbucks just tends to have more consistent hours in the evenings, and I know that many couples want evening meetings. I do try to offer meetings 5 days a week and also offer them up until about 8 p.m. I will typically open 1 to 2 Saturdays a month, kind of just depending on my schedule and how many days I have work during the week. I will tell you that if there is a day that works for you or a time that works for you that you do not see on my calendar, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to be flexible. I'm happy to accommodate, because I know just looking at a calendar sometimes can be hard to schedule your meeting. Who can come to your meeting? That is up to you. I have some brides that come by themselves. I have some brides that will bring their mother, their parents. I have had meetings where I have met with a bride's parents so that we could talk about the budget. They had X amount of dollars and wanted to know how we should spend that, and was that enough? How does paying vendors work? How do contracts work? Those kind of things. It's also common for a maid of honor or a sister to come to meetings as well. Whoever you feel comfortable talking about your wedding in front of when it comes to decisions and money are more than welcome to come with you to the meeting. In our meeting, I typically start off with what you have done so far. If anything, it is completely okay if you have done nothing but accept a proposal. We can start from literally square one. The first thing that we will talk about is going to be your guest list. We are going to make several different guest lists. By we, I mean you. I always recommend putting your guest list in Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. We are going to reference these lists a million times during planning. The first guest list that I want you to make is a list of every single person that you have to invite. There are always going to be people out of state or out of the country, or your nanny from when you were 5 that you have to send an invitation to just to be nice. We're going to make a list of all of those people that you have to send an invitation to. The next list is going to be a list of the people that we realistically think are going to come. For the most part, you have a pretty good idea of who will come, and that's going to be the number that we work with whenever we are getting quotes from vendors. The third list that we are going to make is a list of any out of town or out of state guests that will need a hotel room. If that is going to be more than 10 hotel rooms, 10 different families, 10 different couples, etc., then we will talk about a hotel room block at a later date. but that's just going to give us an idea if we need to plan for hotel blocks or not. Then my last list that I always like to go ahead and make just while we're making lists, and we have this for the future, is a list of your guests that will drink alcohol. And this can be one of those things you could highlight this. It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific list. You can make it as detailed as you want. But your bar will be a good portion of your budget. And we want to have a good idea of how many people will be drinking that evening. A lot of times I will have couples say, one side of the family doesn't drink at all and they don't really want to pay for an open bar for all of those people. So we want to have an ideal list of how many people we think, and obviously you can't determine every single person and what they will do that day, but that's going to give us an idea because we have different ways that we can pay for a bar. It can be based per person. It can be based on consumption. It can be based on X amount and then it goes to a cash bar. There are a million ways that you can do it, but this is going to allow us to see if we need beer, if we need wine, if we need to do bourbon, how much we need to do, and just kind of guide us a little bit on that part of the budget. And then, of course, after we talk about the guest list, we are going to talk about the budget. I would say I say the word budget probably 50 times a day, maybe more. I may even say it 50 times during this podcast. But our budget is what we need to have from the very beginning. Truthfully, most couples go over their budget by at least 25%. And that's just because when you start planning, you don't always know what is going to be most important to you, and you don't know what things cost. That is completely okay. That is completely normal to not know those things. Anytime that you are Googling prices or what things cost, the majority of the articles are going to come up. They're going to be from California, New York, Florida, Nashville. None of those weddings are equivalent to the weddings that we have here in Central Kentucky as far as pricing. You can go to my website, thesimplylovestudio.com, and go to the blog. I do try to update kind of a general pricing for you at least once or twice a year as far as what an average photographer costs, what an average cake is going to cost. And then I like to give you like a low end and a high end because obviously venues, for example, we have $2,000 venues and we have $15,000 venues. So it's kind of hard to get an average on that one per se, but it's going to give you just a guide of what you might expect to spend. Once we talk a little bit about budget, and sometimes even when we meet, you don't have an idea of budget, that's completely okay. I have some couples that will not necessarily make a strict budget. It'll be like we pay for it as we go and we figure out what's most important. We get a couple of quotes, we compare, and then we make a decision. Completely up to you. You can do that however you would like. I do recommend putting your wedding money in kind of maybe a separate account, maybe even a savings type account, because when you start paying your deposits, you will want to pay via check. Unfortunately, credit card processing fees for small businesses and businesses in general are expensive. And I would say the average credit card processing fee is 3.5 to 4% per transaction for a wedding vendor. And while that may not seem like a lot, it adds up very quickly. For a venue, for example, if you have a $10,000 venue, you add 6% sales tax, and then you add a 4% transaction fee, that just increased drastically into the rest of your budget. So we want to pay a check for as many vendors as we absolutely can, or some vendors will work with you on sale, Venmo, etc. But our goal is to avoid any type of credit card fees. I recommend when you come to me, if you have not booked any vendors yet, to make a list of the 3 most important things to you for your wedding day. This is something that you will want to do together with your fiance. And those 3 things can be anything in this world. I've also had couples ask their mothers, what are 3 very important things to you? And that can be your photographer, that can be your food, that can be your DJ, that can be your dress. It can be whatever you want. I had one couple once, the chairs were very important to them that their guests were going to sit in. Literally, whatever is important to you will be important to me, and I will help you kind of make those decisions. But Those three things are going to be the three areas that we do not skimp on, that we do not fold on any decisions. We are going to have those three things, and we are going to make sure that you are thrilled with those three decisions, whatever they may be. And then everything else, we're going to be a little flexible on. If you do not have a venue whenever we meet, we will talk about what you're looking for in a venue. We have some incredible options in our area. We have hotels, we have barns, we have museums, we have wineries, we have industrial. Honestly, we have just about any kind of venue that you want. And this will also come back to your guest count. Once we know your guest count and we know what style of venue that you are looking for, my goal is to help you narrow it down. Ideally, you only have to go and look at 3 or 4 venues in person. Occasionally, I have some brides that will look at 7, 8, 10 venues. I don't want to say that's not common, but it does happen, and that's okay. I tell couples to go with their gut, and if they do not feel like any of the venues that they have looked at yet are the one, that's okay, and to keep looking. But my goal is to narrow down the venues that fit what you're looking for before you go and look at them. I also recommend anytime that you are interested in a venue to look at their tagged photos on Instagram. Sometimes you get more inspiration that way from looking at a venue's tagged photos from other couples and other photographers than maybe what they're posting. And a lot of times that may help you decide whether you want to see it in person or not. Websites, honestly, are super hard for vendors to update. Let me rephrase that. They're not hard. It's time consuming, and we never know really what you want to see. So definitely look at those tagged photos. That will help you a lot of times decide if you want to go see a venue. And then my goal is once we narrow down the venues that I think are going to be a good fit for you, whether that is Simply Love Studio preferred vendors or that are other venues in the community, then I will give you contact information for them if I have it. I usually like to give you direct contact information so that you do not have to go through contact forms or maybe a couple people to get to the right people. If I don't have that, then I will give you the information that I have for that business. If at all possible, in the beginning stages, I recommend not having a date set in stone. Unless there is a date that is extremely important to you because it was maybe your parents' anniversary or it was your grandparents' anniversary, or perhaps it was the day that you met or anniversary of your first date. Anything like that, I completely understand. Otherwise, I try to recommend maybe coming up with a month that you are interested in getting married in, or even maybe even a couple months. Or you can just be like, we want to avoid July and August, whatever that may be. But we really want to find a venue that you love and are sure of before you set your date. Because if you are stuck on a certain date and that venue is already booked for that date, then that venue is already booked for that date. And I don't want you to have your heart broken that you found the venue and you have the date, but they're not available for when you want it. If you are listening to this and you live outside of the Bluegrass region, but you are getting married here, I am so happy for you. You have picked an amazing, beautiful place to get married. But I know it is definitely hard to get here to do venue tours. I will tell you, it is completely normal to have a parent or a bridesmaid or a sibling, whoever, to go and do a walkthrough of the venue with the venue coordinator. They can also do a FaceTime with you or a Zoom with you so that you can see it from their perspective. Also, most venue coordinators will also do a FaceTime or Zoom with you so that you can see everything just for you. You've seen the pictures and gotten inspiration online, but let's typically see a venue when the conversation is just between you and the venue person so that you can really see if it's a good fit and if you get a vibe from them. Once you have picked your venue, you will want to sign a contract You will want to sign a contract with every single vendor for your wedding. Even if it is a friend that is providing a service for you, you want to sign a contract with them. I'm going to repeat that. Even if it is a friend and they are providing a service for you and there is going to be money involved, or honestly, if there's not even going to be money involved, we need a contract stating exactly what each person is bringing to the table. You will also pay a flat rate, or sometimes that may be like $1,000 deposit, or sometimes you may pay like a 50% deposit. Every vendor is going to be different. It's usually a percentage or a flat rate, and you will pay that with your contract. Your venue is not booked until your contract is signed and your deposit is paid. Your contract may be signed, but you're waiting a couple weeks to pay the deposit. Truthfully, that venue can turn around and book it to somebody else that walks in that day if they have the money that day. Let's just be honest. So let's repeat that. If your contract is signed with the venue, you also need to make sure that your deposit has also been paid, because that does not guarantee anything. Once we have a venue selected, we have a date. Having a venue will also tell us if the venue is going to provide the catering and the alcohol, or if that is something that we need to also hire separately. The venue will also determine if we need to have any rentals as far as tables, chairs, linens, china, flatware, any of those kind of things. So the venue will determine a lot for us when it comes to what vendors we need to book and the budget. Once you have a venue, we can move into photography. From there, we go to DJ. And from there, I work with every couple, kind of do a custom timeline for you, because every couple is going to be on a different timeline. You can even have the same day as another couple, but what you're doing is going to be different because your venue is different, your vendors are different, your budget is different, your guest count is different. I often get couples asking me to send them a template or send them any information they might need, etc. I can't really do that unless we actually have a conversation, because everyone is so different. I sit down and I compose every single email. I put every individual link in there, and sometimes it may take me 30 to 45 minutes to compose a single email. And that's already after I have checked with the vendors that I think are a good fit to see if they're available, because I'm trying to do a lot of the legwork for you. And if it takes me that long, I can only imagine how long it would take you to do something, and when I have the resources at my fingertips to do it. Anytime that you have a meeting with me, you are going to leave that meeting with homework. And I'm going to give you timeframes for when you need to have stuff done, or timeframes for when you should have quotes. And just kind of guide you throughout the process. I like to tackle one or two things at a time, because if we are tackling 6 different vendors at one time, nothing is going to get done. You're going to be very confused about everything. So I like to kind of guide you and take things step by step. I will say that when we meet, and depending on your budget, typically if that is 30 to 35,000 or more, then I am going to refer you to a full service planner so that they can do a venue walkthrough with you, or multiple venue walkthroughs, so that, especially if you haven't found your venue. I had a bride recently tell me that she had listened to the podcast and she did not realize that she could schedule individual meetings with me. That is why I'm doing this podcast today, because I want you to truly know the amount of services that Simply Love Studio offers to couples getting married in our area. The majority of the couples that I work with, in my knowledge, is going to be in the Lexington and surrounding areas, the Georgetown, Versailles, Danville, Richmond, those areas. However, I do have some couples that are in the Louisville area, and I know that Louisville gets a good amount of destination couples just because of the airport and because Louisville's a little bit bigger. If I meet with you and I do not have the answers for you for a Louisville wedding, I can absolutely get those answers for you. I work with some incredible planners there. And then we also have several also planners in Lexington that are based in Lexington, but they also work in Louisville a good amount. So if you come to me and I don't know the answers, I can get the answers for you, because honestly, if the people I know don't have the answers, they're not answers for the question. If you come to your first meeting with me and you already have your venue, you have your guest count, you have your budget, and you have a few vendors booked, that is completely okay. We will pick up from where you're at, what you're stuck on, and I will get you a to-do list. That is why what I do is so great. It is customized for every single couple, and we can meet as many times as we need to throughout the planning process. We can do a mix of Zoom or in person. Whatever works for you works for me. My goal is to help keep your stress level at bay and to answer any of those random questions. Like I said, we know that you don't do this every day. We know that this is new to you, and we want to make it as easy and as enjoyable for you as possible. There are many ways to follow Simply Love Studio. We have Instagram, which is Simply Love Studio, and that is a mix of weddings, a little bit of my life, my travels, and my foster dog, whoever that may be at the time. I do try to share what other vendors are posting, if they've posted an incredible photo, or if they have an event going on, or if a bridal show is coming up. Just to kind of keep you up to date on what is happening within the local wedding industry. There's also Facebook. Sometimes the Simply Love Studio Facebook content will be a little different than Instagram, just because content in general can be different on Facebook. And I will share a lot of things or post a few more links there if our vendors have been featured somewhere on a publication or in a publication, on a blog, etc. So even if you follow in one place, I do recommend following in the other place. I do have TikTok as well. That is sarah.in.ky. That is also, again, some weddings, some dog content, and then occasional random content as well. There will be a little bit of overlap between that and Simply Love Instagram and the Wedding Whisperer podcast Instagram. The Wedding Whisperer podcast and Simply Love Instagrams will have different content as well. So you'll definitely want to follow both of those on Instagram. There is also the blog that you can go to on the Simply Love Studio website. The blog content, I try to do a blog every month. It doesn't always happen, but it is going to be thought out and purposeful. It's not just me throwing up content to have content. And I have a whole list of blogs that I want to write, and we'll hopefully get to that a little better this year. But keep an eye on the blog. I do try to share on Instagram stories whenever that is posted. But if you're like, hey, I want to read about weddings today, head over to the blog and check it out. I also have Pinterest, which is just under Simply Love Studio. Every preferred vendor has a Pinterest board. That content will typically be different than my social media or Instagram posts because it is more specific to the vendor and will show photos of their venue, show photos of their food, or whatever their service might be. So definitely go and check that out. You can also find several other great vendors on Pinterest as well. I talk about Pinterest a lot. I don't feel like a lot of other vendors do, but I still think Pinterest is huge in the wedding industry because it is visual. You can see, especially for flowers, I think it is a great way to have an idea for flowers. And like when we meet and you show me a Pinterest board or you even show me like 3 bouquets that you like, I can tell you instantly which local florist is going to be for you. We have several florists that, are very specific in what they are really, really good at. And when I see those Pinterest boards, I can point you in that direction. Also, save food like for your appetizers and your centerpieces, your dress. I know there are local dress shops that post all of their dresses on Pinterest. So there's a lot of great content on Pinterest, so don't sleep on it. And then, of course, the Wedding Whisperer podcast. You can find this on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. The majority of the episodes are on YouTube. I'm trying to finish season 2 right now. Hopefully, they're close to being done by the time you look on there. There are some episodes that are video episodes. There's Bayou Bluegrass Catering. Theirs is a video episode that you can watch through, and we talk about catering. We talk about Limestone Hall. We talk about Copper Roo, and we talk about the Round Barn. There's also a video podcast of tipping, which is a huge conversation these days. And I did that with Candace Ford Event Designs and Perfect Timing, Shelly Dawn Images. We did a video podcast on wedding albums. That is another thing that I am very passionate about, especially if photography is in your top 3 priorities. We want to make sure that we are preserving those images and we have those somewhere besides on a computer screen. There is also a video podcast with Cassidy from The Wild Rose. One of her clips actually went viral on Instagram because she gave a hot take about what she thinks that you can cut when it comes to your floral budget. So, lots of great content on all different platforms. And you are always welcome to email me and ask me a question. It is very common for me to get random emails every day asking random questions. I will do my best to respond to those the best I can. I will have couples reach out and be like, hey, this is my budget. Which vendor should I look at? That kind of thing. I am always happy to help you, even if it's via email or text. We do not necessarily have to have a meeting for me to help you. I know not everybody's into having meetings or talking in general. So always feel free to reach out to me via email. I hope that this has helped you understand a little bit more about what I do as far as a wedding concierge and what Simply Love Studio does. I know it's kind of a unique and different concept. It is very unusual to hear anything ever being free. And I just always want couples to know that there's no catches, there's no gimmicks, that everything I do for you is completely free because of some incredible vendors in our community that also want to make sure that your wedding is amazing. Again, reach out, follow me on social media, and I cannot wait to help you plan your wedding. I cannot wait to see things come to life. If you are a parent or a bridesmaid listening to this, you are more than welcome to reach out as well. My goal is just to help a wedding be amazing. For more information about Simply Love Studio or to schedule your wedding consultation, go to simplylovestudio.com.